Welcome to the Prana Boosters Show. I'm your host, Tina Louise Bellotti.
And I'm Alan Bellotti.
I'm Isabella Sarah Bellotti. And I'm Gabrielle Letzo Bellotti.
Author, speaker, intuitive coach, and consultant Randy Spelling is the head of Randy Spelling Coaching. Growing up in one of Hollywood's most famous families, he witnessed firsthand that money and fame do not create freedom or happiness, but our daily choices do. Using his natural intuitive abilities and 14 years of coaching experience, he helps people see the choices they didn't realize they had so they can create more freedom, success, presence, and happiness in their lives. I actually had the pleasure of meeting Randy in person at his book signing in Los Angeles for his book, Unlimiting You, and he was on my podcast 6 years ago in 2015, and now I have the pleasure of speaking to him again in 2021. Hi, Prana Boosters. Today, I'm so grateful to welcome back to the show our featured guest, Prana Booster, the inspirational, funny, kind, generous Randy Spelling.
Wow, thank you. Hey, Tina.
You're welcome. That's how I feel when I watch you, when I listen to you. I just feel like it's so much coming from your heart, and I love who you show up to be. And so I thank you for being here with us and sharing time and space, and honestly getting the chance to connect with you again. I'm really excited to have this time together.
Me too. It's been a while. It's been, you were just saying six years?
2015 was the last time we did our podcast.
How is that possible?
I don't actually know. I mean, I think after everything we've been through, it feels like lifetimes ago. I feel like I'm such a different person than when we last spoke. I've been through so much, and so much has changed, and my girls are older. My husband and I look younger, but I'm 47 now. So this is like 2015 we spoke, and
Oh, I know. And I saw you at one of my book premieres. You came and supported, which is cool to see you.
Last time we got to meet in person, and I was able to have you sign my book. And wait, it's this page. I still have it. I still have your energy in it, and I love it. I love it. It's such a good book. It still has so many wonderful messages in it that you shared, and so many intimate, vulnerable moments that you shared of your heart. So I really recommend people still reading this book and getting that information. But yeah, I was able to go to your book signing, and
Touche.
Oh my God, I'm gonna cry.
I get to hold this up. We have this, and we read it too. I love this book.
Oh, thank you so much. You know, that book is really special. So I feel amazing that I was able to share your book with your family. I mean, I literally sat with your mom at the book signing and gave her some crystals, and it was so special. And that book that you just showed, we did that as a family. So we all illustrated it and did it. You know, my daughter created the emotion fairy, which is based on me. So she actually drew her.
Oh, that's so wonderful. Yeah, there's a whole lot of good energy in here. Just seeing the book, opening the book, reading the book. It's like, oh, this is so lovely.
Thank you so much. So I am proud of us. Look at us. I mean, I am proud of us taking, that information from inside of our hearts and putting it out there. It takes a lot. It takes a lot to be able to dig deep. And for you, it's even different because you grew up in a very public setting, in the limelight. And, a lot of people, I think they know you because that's the perception we have of people who are in the public view, right? But they really don't. I mean, they really don't know who you are unless they watch now what you do, your videos, and read your book and share all the stuff from your heart.
Yeah, I was going to say, now with social media, at one point it was, I wonder what that person's like. You might see them on TV or hear them in a song or a magazine, but there's this whole other side versus social media now. Someone can always have another side because not every side is shown on social. However, I mean, for me, I feel like everything that I do share and who I am is on there, right? I mean, I don't hold much back just because I have to be me. So I'm sharing myself.
Yes. Yeah, and I think you really are. And I mean, I like to watch you, as you call yourself, is this accurate, an intuitive life coach,
Yeah.
right? And you share so many amazing messages of encouragement. And I really believe that your authenticity comes through in what you share in your messages and your video. I think you can really actually feel it when
Thank
I hear you. Yeah. And I think that's really special at this time. People really need that encouragement and everything. How, we were talking earlier, but these times have felt so challenging to us. Can you share with me a couple ways that you are sort of managing to stay connected and working with your energy during these times?
Sure. Yeah, it's day by day. I mean, what works one day or one week might change the next. So what I found in these times to be extremely helpful is to continue to check in with myself. Where am I? Am I in the future somewhere? Am I in what if land? Um, am I somewhere in the past? Am I in fear? To really just find, oh, okay, you're feeling this way because you've just listened to 20 minutes of news. And while I like to stay informed,
Mhm.
I can consume what I need to consume in 5 minutes. I can get my phone and scroll through and look and go, okay, here are the facts or so-called facts that I'm being told, right? I don't mean to make this political, but you understand. It's like,
No, but at least kind of you're aware of what people are listening to, what people are watching. You kind of have an idea of what's out there.
yeah, I mean, this might be a different conversation, but I like to say that I'm mainstream and I'm completely on the other side of mainstream, because if I don't know what's happening in mainstream, then I'm not plugged in at all. But I also can't go so mainstream that I'm inundated with fear and what's wrong with the world and what's happening in statistics and curves, and because that can have such a detrimental effect on the psyche and the way that you see the world. And we're seeing it now, right? We're seeing it with kids, we're seeing it with teens, we're seeing it with adults. We have to bring in different things that are going to help us just function and feel better on a daily basis. So to your question, I check in a lot, and there are times that I have to up my practice. Maybe that's meditation, or it's working out, exercising, going in nature, and just letting it all go. Being in nature and going and consciously connecting with the life around me, birds that I'm hearing, a tree that's to the left of me, plants that are moving in the wind. Because when you're too plugged into a device, or you're too plugged into whatever's going on in here and going like this, you just miss the infinite intelligence of the world around you, that if you quiet down and still yourself enough, you can hear all of these messages and you can receive so much energy that can change where you're at in the moment. So that's something that really helps me.
I love that. It's so beautiful because, yes, what we learn is that if we don't take the time to nurture ourselves and ground our energy, then we're going to be much more reactive and not have the ability to respond. And you also, if especially you, who's a thought leader and you're sharing information and teaching, you can't access that which is within to come out and create if you're busy just getting stuff downloaded to you.
Right. No, and that you're exactly right. For me, who I work
Yes.
very intuitively,
Yeah.
I'm tuning in and saying, what do people need today? What do people need a week from now, a month from now? But if I'm getting inundated with something that isn't me, then I can't find myself. I can't find that that channel of clarity. Because I don't know about you, but the way that that manifests for me is it's a buzzing or a humming, sort of like that background noise when you have a kitchen fan on, or the lawnmower's going, or a garbage truck is going by and it's, making noise, or a construction. And you've lived with it for a while. And then when it goes off or it stops, you go, wow, that was really loud. I didn't even realize how frenetic or frantic that was, because that's just what I was sitting in for a day or 5 days or 2 weeks. And when you can get those moments where everything just becomes a little bit more quiet, it's amazing what comes out of that stillness.
Well, yeah. And to quote the Emotion Fairy book, you're basically, I mean, you're aligning your nervous system, and it's, if your nervous system is in hypersensitive, and you're just kind of like on edge, which is how we can feel after we watch the news or we hear, all the horrible things that are going on in the world. If we don't kind of have some balance,
Right.
then there's no way for you to bring forth what you need to bring forth, because you're now dysregulated. So
Totally.
that's an amazing gift that you have. I mean, that's something that's very important for all of us. There was one video that you just recently did that I could not stop laughing when you did this Instagram video about all the voices in your head when you were outside walking. It was so funny. I was like, what are you doing in my head? Get out of my head. And sometimes I catch all those thoughts. So I love having metacognition where I can actually have awareness that I'm thinking the thoughts, but they still come many of the times, and I'm like, oh, there's another one. But we were watching this movie, a new Pixar movie. I don't know if you guys saw it, called Luca.
No, I haven't seen it yet.
Okay, it's really cool. I'm not going to ruin it for you, but I'm going to tell you one part of it is that, someone is hearing voices in their head, and in it, it's kind of based in like Italy. So it's like Italian themed, the movie. And they say, they tell them to quiet those voices by saying Silenzio Bruno. And so it's really funny, because now I can't think of anything but that. But I think to myself, like, how do you silence that voice in your head and, raise your vibration to a higher vibration, and, find a way to kind of, like you said, still your mind. I love that you said you walk in nature and you listen for things, like the wind blowing and things like that, because otherwise I think we can get really discouraged.
Totally.
We get like stuck in the mud, like the quicksand of life.
Yeah. I mean, just think of this, right? Climate change.
Oh my God, okay. I'm going to do a list.
Alone, just that on a platter. Climate change.
Just that. Okay.
Symptoms of climate change that we're seeing, that we hear about, right? Over and over and over again. I'll say it like this: things not changing. And I think it doesn't really matter where you stand on this. I'm sure most people will agree, not all. We could have some reform when it comes to weapons. Even, for hunting. Hey, you want to hunt, you want to catch your food? Great. Do we need semi-automatic weapons to do that? No one really needs those things. The fact that there hasn't been any reform around it, how many more things have to happen? How many more disturbing, egregious, like how ridiculous does it have to become? So I think there are just even those two examples alone, much less, you look at corruption, you look at there's so much that, and then you have the news that goes over all the different things that are happening.
Right.
It's very hard to then go from that to look out into the world and just see all the beauty.
Right.
Right. And of course, the water cooler talk isn't always the beauty. Oh my gosh, did you hear about this amazing thing that happened last night? There's a
Yeah.
renewable resource, and they're figuring out a way how to turn garbage into oil. Most people aren't talking about that. Most people are talking about, holy shit, have you heard what happened? This many people got killed. There was this weather event. There were floods here. There was, and so it just enhances
Mhm.
everyone's, we all have a fear button. We all have, Eckhart Tolle talks about that pain body that exists. It sort of kicks up the nervous system and goes, you need to be worried. You need to be excited. You need to be on high alert. You need to be vigilant because there's danger around you. And there's so much danger, in fact,
Everywhere.
that you're not safe.
Yeah.
So even though, people aren't going, you're not safe, you're not safe, you're not safe, it's happening in so other ways. In the way that unfortunately our brains interpret that message, because we are taking in and receiving information all the time. We have these antennae, whether you're connected to that or not, we're sending and receiving mass amounts of information second by second. So what happens is we take that in, we look at someone's face, just like a child looks at a grown-up, and if they fall, they look at the grown-up, and if the grown-up goes, oh, the child goes, and starts to cry because their cue is something's wrong.
Yes.
I feel that fear, therefore now I'm scared. And so I'm saying all these things not to paint such a morbid picture, for the metacognition to understand what's happening, to just gently step out of the matrix for a moment and look at what's happening, and then go, what else do I want to bring to this meal? Like, I have a whole plate of Brussels sprouts and I don't care for Brussels sprouts, and I'm smelling the Brussels sprouts and they smell like someone's having gas, and I'm just not enjoying this. What else can I bring here as a condiment or a main dish or some dessert to balance the plate? So sure, you can still get your vegetables and have some of this, but then you have all these other things that will boost you up and lift you up, and also give your brain, your psyche, something else to then focus on. And the last thing I'll say about this really quickly is, have you ever painted a room, or you have to do touch-ups and you have to go through and take tape and point out all the flaws everywhere?
Yeah.
You start doing that enough and you train yourself to see flaws. Versus if you pull back and go, what's right about this room? How has this room served me? What memories has this room created? What could this room create with some freshness and newness? What could we do in here? You bring a whole different energy to the game.
Yeah, I love that. That's a beautiful metaphor. I think that it has, all of these things that we've been going through since this whole like COVID journey adventure has begun. I think I can say from personal experience, it has triggered traumas that I had buried deep, that I didn't, that maybe I thought, oh, I'm, more healed, or more, I'm, better about things, but that are still there, because we don't know what's still like buried below. Right. Like, I think, like you mentioned, the feeling of we don't feel safe, for sure. That is like, one of the things that I think has been sparked for everyone. But like for me, I grew up very sick with childhood asthma. I had bronchitis, I had pneumonia, I had asthma, I had all these problems. And so when I had to cover my mouth with a mask, and I had to, and my body subconsciously, obviously, maybe, I don't know, was triggered and remembered not having full oxygen, what that felt like to not be able to breathe, like instant panic, like instant, like I was like, oh my God, I healed this. I don't experience this. I've done so much work on myself that, I don't take any medication. I don't have it. And that, when I put that back on, I was right back to like that little girl who was really sick and couldn't breathe. And I was doing the breathing machines and the, what are those called? The inhalers. And
Yeah.
it was like, and so I had my own trauma response, let's say, to that scenario. So I think then maybe there's little triggers for everybody in these different scenarios that we've been facing. And people have to kind of dig deep to figure out, well, why is that popping up? And why am I feeling that way? And why is that being triggered? I think
Yes.
that's been surprising for everybody.
I just saw this post by someone that talks about how healing is messy, and we always want to put healing in a little box, and it's this very transformative idea with healing, right? Like, I am a caterpillar and I'm healing and I'm going to become a butterfly.
Yeah, it's so beautiful and lovely.
Right. But really, what that caterpillar has to go through and what it turns into and like mulches and gets deformed, and it's messy. It's messy within that little cocoon. Amazing, but messy.
Yeah.
So it's like childbirth. Amazing. Literally, one of my most memorable moments probably ever was that my first daughter was born. Not that my second was any less special, but I'd never witnessed anything like that. And no movie, prepared me for that. That is incredible. It's incredibly painful, intense, extreme. It's like it's everything wrapped up into one, right? And then you get this amazing being.
Yeah.
But the path to get there, right? I'm growing a baby inside. It's so beautiful. It's so beautiful. And then, you have to do the hard work of birthing the child. And so it's the same thing with healing and transformation. Is the healing can be really messy. And when I heard you say COVID triggered the pandemic triggered these different traumas that I had, in a way, and I don't want to just make this positive here. I mean, I think triggering trauma is really real and needs to be addressed. But how perfect that something comes along to trigger the trauma to be healed versus not being healed, and it's still creating problems because it's still there. So in a way, it is not saying that I love the pandemic, but we have to work with what's here and what's in our environment. And right now it is here, it's in our environment. It's a catalyst. It is a catalyst on so many levels. I mean, it's why people are moving out of cities or they're quitting their jobs and pivoting to something else, because people have asked themselves, what am I doing? What's really important?
Yeah.
Now that things have
slowed. They had time to they were forced to, put everyone used to say it's a forced time out.
Right. So it's a catalyst.
It's a catalyst. Yeah.
It is it's the coach. It's the person who calls you out on your what and says, why you say that you want to change. Here it is. Do something about it. Or, I heard a lot of people say, I gained the COVID, the pandemic, 20 pounds or whatever. And again, something comes up. It's like, you have to get healthy now. Don't just talk about it, but let's do something about it. So all of these things, that it's like a little washing machine that brings up this stuff so that you can get more clean, more healed, more whole.
No, listen, we know every crisis comes with its gifts and miracles. It's unbelievable. It's funny, but we actually, one of the things that we had to deal with was, I've lived here since on and off since 1998 in California, but I grew up in Chicago. So I knew nothing of this, but obviously, you're on the West Coast too. I don't know if you've ever been touched by wildfires, but we actually had our first really, really close scare. And of course, I always sent angels and love and felt for anyone who had to experience that. But I personally had never experienced that. And last year during the worst year, during lockdowns and everything, we actually had to evacuate. I have a whole video on YouTube of it because it's so crazy. I shared our experience, but it was so incredibly challenging that when I came back from that, it actually, there was an evacuation where we didn't know what would happen, if our neighborhood would be here standing in our home. And then the second time was just a threat of evacuation. So we were like, had all our stuff by the door, but we didn't have to go. But it happened twice. And for me, when I got back to the neighborhood, it's funny, I started walking. Like I had so much anxiety. My anxiety, I wasn't really working out. I couldn't sit still. I was so scared and anxious. So I went out in my neighborhood and I started to walk around, and I called it my anxiety walks. And I would walk every day. And my husband would say, "Where are you going?" And I'm like, "I don't know. I got to get out of here. I got to walk." And I would walk. And I would be so nervous. But slowly I started to notice, what if I shifted this walk to be called my appreciation walk instead of my anxiety walk? Because I was giving it an energy by calling it that. And then I started to like take pictures of flowers, at least one flower every time I walked, and I started to do it. But I was appreciating my neighborhood that was still standing, that was still here. And I was, and I think because we've all been home so much, that's also why I had to like get out and shift my energy and, separate myself from, my husband and the kids and the dog and the house, because we're in the house so much. And it really shifted for me a lot to like turn it to an appreciation practice rather than something I was running from.
Yes.
So we've all had to come up with like coping things, right?
Yes. Are you saying you would feel anxious and the first thought was, I have to go walk because I'm anxious?
Yeah, but that didn't usually happen. I didn't associate like any type of movement, or I started to say, I got to move this energy. I don't know what to do with it. Do you know what I mean? But I didn't typically turn to that in stress before. I wasn't like, oh, I'm going to go work out. I'm so stressed. That wasn't really my thing I was known for.
Yeah. What I'm picturing in my mind is, because I'm sure so many people can relate to this. I know I can, feeling so much energy in your body and not knowing what to do with it. And it's a very hard feeling it's like telling a child to sit still when they're incredibly excited about a play date with a friend, and you can just see them. They're feeling all of this in their body, and you're like, no, sit still, don't do anything. It's too much to hold. So going on a walk and consciously saying, with each step, I'm letting this energy go, because you're doing something with it. It's now intentional. And as you're letting go, not just I'm walking because I'm anxious and then just walking to run away from something. It's, I need a place to put all of this. So I'm going to walk and I'm going to let it go, because the planet has so powerful and it has an intelligence. I'm going to give this to the planet while also appreciating things that I see about the planet. So it's a beautiful 360 degree, or I guess you'd say an infinity sign type thing, because you're letting go and you're giving back. You're letting go and you're giving back.
Yeah. And we even have like hula hoops in our kitchen to like, and we're all like, oh, we got to move the energy. We got to move the energy. We're like, it's just, I mean, we felt so desperate to do that. And I think now, I think the hardest thing is for me, I don't know what you've experienced, but also a lot of people I know, we're just so exhausted, like so tired. And it's not like, oh, I need a nap. It's like, no, I need a nap for like 20 years, like exhaustion. Like I cannot bring myself to get out of this. And I think it's like a trauma response that people might be feeling to everything that's collectively happening. And I'm wondering, this is something that I think you're really good at. How do you really share with your audience how to stay hopeful among, everything they're watching and everything they're focusing on, and not to lose faith and hope in something bigger and better coming out of all of this and the transformation of this planet? Just a small little tiny question.
Yeah. Just a little nugget here.
A little itty bitty tiny tiny thought.
I think it's different for each and every person what makes them hopeful. I can share, for me, I feel it in the fibers of my being. I don't know how. I mean, yes, I can turn to nature. Yes, I can. I have a good support system around me. I think that's helpful. Some checks and balances where if I'm like, I'm going on the cuckoo train here, should I be what ifing this much? Should I be futurizing this much? So you have to have some checks and balances.
Yeah.
But one of the things is observe small children, observe animals, observe nature. Notice I said observe 3 times. So it's really observe this, because when we aren't hopeful, we're not in observation.
And we're future tripping, right? We're actually taking ourselves out of the present moment.
We're not observing, oh, my mind is moving forward, trying to create this picture that hasn't even happened yet, that may not happen, likely won't happen. That's just my safety mechanism saying, well, we're going to play out the worst case scenario so that you can be more prepared. But to look at, what is it that is around me? How can I observe this and not become it? And that's the biggest thing. Can I observe fear without becoming it? Mm-hmm. Can I observe, whatever's happening and not be in reaction to it, not be the effect of it? And that's something where hopefully people can latch on to and tether to, is look at what's good in the world. And if you don't have something today, find it. I mean, it's amazing what we'll do on Google, right? We'll look up, you have one ailment and you're Googling, what is this ailment? You're reading all the ill effects about it, what it could be. Are we Googling to find the positive things?
Right.
Are we search engineing to find what good is happening? Because it is. Are we looking at solutions? Because there are. And if not, could we find those solutions instead of just focusing on the problem? I mean, I do this with my daughters a lot. You could circle around the problem. First, identify it. Okay, great. This is what she did to you. This is what you did. We get it. What are some solutions now? Well, she was doing this and I felt, yeah. Thank you for sharing that. You've shared that. Let's not go back to what happened because it happened. Let's look at solutions so it doesn't happen again. Let's look at solutions because since it happened, let's find how to use this to create something better. And if you don't ask for that, if you don't focus on that, what quantum science shows us is that we'll just recreate it. We'll just keep recreating and recreating and recreating until we consciously create.
Right. Well, there's just that. There's just all of that we have to manage and deal with. Well, I know you have to go. So I was just going to say, I would love for you to share, I think we're all feeling the effects right now of such strong polarity and, division, kind of us versus them energy and mentality and good guys and bad guys. And I think, do you have any advice on how we can show up and still, be among the world and be authentic without, there's just criticism and cancel culture. And it's like, you don't even know, I find myself even just sometimes you don't even know what to say or what is okay to say or how, so I find myself being more quiet in conversations with people, kind of just letting them feel the way they want to feel. And we're going to choose how we want to feel. And you know what I mean? Do you have like a secret message or something to deal with sort of these stresses, which I know are happening? I mean, I see them happening between husbands and wives and, grandparents and, their grown children. It's just a kind of a challenging time now.
Yeah, this saddens me a lot
Yeah.
because I'm hearing daily, oh, we don't have a relationship anymore, or, I expressed my viewpoint over this, or so and so, said this, and I just can't have a relationship with them anymore. And here's the thing, because this is so nuanced that I feel like I have to say this. If someone's really toxic and not working for you, and the relationship doesn't serve you, take a break, right? That's all well and good. But what's happening is that people are having a different viewpoint. They're just having a different experience. That doesn't inherently make them bad.
Right.
Right? Now, people may act in a malicious way, and that's unfortunate, but that doesn't make someone bad. Even someone who is doing some terrible things, or, there's a lot of corruption out there, right? I mean, I don't think that's anything new where it's like, oh, Randy feels like there's corruption in the world. I mean, there's a lot of corruption, right? But you look at these people, because I often ask, how do these people sleep at night? Right? Making decisions where, I just watched a documentary called Crime of the Century, where it talks about the opioid crisis, and, how these companies were paying off the FDA, and, writing this language to make up terms to basically say, listen, if people are addicted, it's just pseudo addiction and all that, like crazy things, crazy masterminding things. But the thing is, that person, who knows what they experienced as a child? Who knows why they see the world the way that they do? If they felt that they wanted to manipulate people and beg, borrow, steal, manipulate, hurt in any way to make money, like, what is the consciousness of that person? What are the traumas of that person that money and greed and power took hold and became more important than humanity and life? Like, that saddens me. And sure, at first, my first reaction, I'm throwing out a couple 4-letter words, and I'm thinking, how could this happen? And how could people let this happen? And then after that, because that's reactionary, I calm myself, and I'll send that person a prayer or some love, or just say, I hope that they are able to transcend that at some point, because that is a hard energy to be in.
Yeah.
I don't care how much money someone has. I don't want to trade places with that person. I don't want to trade places with the feeling that I would have being who I am and knowing what I know. Living with that, no way. So, in a nutshell, when it comes to polarity and me against them and people being so divided, we don't need more separation on the planet. We've experienced it time and time again. It causes war. I'm right, you're wrong. We don't need it. It's just fueling more of what all of us, all those who are consider themselves spiritual, they say they don't want to see. Anytime you criticize someone, every time you separate, every time you divide, you're participating in the very thing that you want to see change. So my best invitation here is stop criticizing, stop judging, and really put out into the world what you most want to see, the world that you want to leave for your children. You teach your children how to just be angry, how to judge someone, how to criticize someone, then what world are you leaving for them? You're teaching them how to repeat the very same things that have just been repeated year after year after year.
Yeah, I think that's really important. Absolutely. Well, I want to honor your time today, and I love speaking with you. I feel like we could talk forever. There's just so much to discuss and everything. I'm so grateful for the work that you do and the empowering messages that you're bringing through when you feel aligned to do it. It's so appreciated. Your knowledge and your teachings, and I think they're so needed at this time. And I would just like to say, just tell everybody quickly, I'll also have it listed on my website, but where everybody can find you and your wonderful services and programs that you offer.
Sure. And thank you for all of that. I appreciate your words. randyspelling.com is my website. And I do a lot on Instagram. So you can follow me at randyspelling.com. I mean, at Randy Spelling.
I know. Okay.
Thank you, Tina. It's so good to see you again.
Yeah. Thank you too. I appreciate it. Bye.
Bye. Tina.
Randy. Oh my God.
Hey.
How are you doing?
Great and good. And it's kind of like a lot of time has passed and no time has passed.
I know. Can you believe it? Oh my God. It's so crazy. I'm going to mention that when we start, but I can't believe it. The last time we spoke was 2015.
That's
I mean,
nuts.
It's like
6 years ago.
6 years ago. Yeah. I can't even believe it.
How are you doing?
I'm freaking out. It's so funny. Nothing would work. I was trying so hard to set up my Zoom. My husband and I were testing it. I was like, oh my God, is it side by side? Is it recording right? I don't know. It was weird. And then I couldn't print my notes. So my husband printed them for me. Like, it was one of those days. And I just kept asking my guides and my angels. I was like, come on, guys. I'm like, what's going on over here? I'm like, help me get my act together.
Right. Some crazy energy, full moon energy.
I know. I think I was a little nervous. I was just getting in my head or something like that. I don't know.
Nervous about this?
Well, like when I do the technology and everything, like my husband gave me the Yeti microphone, and I'm making sure I chose the right input and the kind of the tech stuff about it, like the tech stuff.
I see. Yeah. All that tech stuff.
It's like, just get me in a room and let me do my Reiki and my, my coaching and all that stuff. This stuff makes me kind of like anxious a little bit.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's a lot to navigate. It's so funny when I go on Facebook Lives or Instagram Lives or whatever, the energy is so different because you can feel people tuning in right away versus something recorded. And whatever's going on with them, it's like being in an event and being on stage and looking out and seeing, 600 people. I can feel everything that's going on. I'm like, it always takes me a moment because although I'm better at it, I'm still not 100% used to all at once feeling everything and then trying to go, okay, how do I let that settle and then let this part emerge this aspect that needs to come and deliver this talk or be in the moment when there's just so much swirling around.
You're right. And you know what else? Like, you don't actually know. Well, so I only did one live so far. Like, I've been afraid to do it, so I actually haven't done it. So, but when you think about being so sensitive, you actually don't even know who's tuning in, and it could be anybody from anywhere. So it's not like you and I speaking right now. It's a little controlled environment,
right?
Having that safe conversation. Yeah, that's interesting. You're right.
Yeah, it's different, but
you're doing it though. I see your stuff. I'm like, he's doing it, man.
I'm doing it, and you are too, right?
I am. I'm not doing the live stuff, and I haven't really done the social media, stuff too much. I don't know. It's really funny because my girls are so much older now, and they keep trying to like coach me. They're always coaching me because I raised them like this. So they're all like, mommy, this is what you have to do, and you have to record, and you should be doing a podcast today, and blah, blah. They're so like, good at, and I'm all like, no, not today, maybe tomorrow, like whatever. Like, I'm just, I'm trying so hard to come back into myself, and it's been so crazy. We'll talk a little bit about that when we start, but
well, before rolling, just a curious question here. What is, and it sounds so coachy, but I'm genuinely curious, like, what is your ultimate heart's goal with everything that you're doing?
What is my, I do love doing my podcast. I mean, my ultimate goal, my big life goal is raising the vibration of this planet to the frequency of love. It's like sharing the Prana Boost message, which is helping people raise their vibration and create harmonious relationships and homes, honestly, so that we raise, our children in a different environment. And, my husband and I are together this year, 27 years. So kind of like, sharing with the world, our lifestyle and our, what has worked for us and what we do really like in our own home. And it's interesting because this year recently, are you sure you're okay on time? I'll just share this one thing with you. Okay. My daughter joined this thing. They created this thing here in California, where we are in Orange County now, called Uplift Teen Yoga Foundation. And it's a nonprofit to help teen girls, kind of like preteen and teen girls.
Yeah.
And she's like, Mommy, she's like, it's literally Prana Boost outside of my house. She's like, it's crystals and energy and yoga and card readings. And it's not so much just yoga, but that's kind of how they get people in, so that they can teach about the mindfulness. They can't even really put it into words what they do. And she actually just became a yoga teacher, like a 200-hour teacher. That's the first time they ever trained teens.
Wow.
And she's not done. She still has a little bit more to do to get the certification, but they finished the program. And it's my first time of her so-called leaving the nest at 17. And being in something out in the world where she's like, I know this stuff. Like, I grew up with this stuff. Like, you're not the only one telling me this stuff. Like, somebody, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like this little validation, like, maybe I needed that. Maybe I needed, because before I was just, swinging from like the chandelier by myself, making this stuff up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
It's kind of like to see the other side of, my kids, what it was like to grow up with that. Maybe I feel more confident sharing the messages of, like a conscious parenting, conscious family lifestyle with people, because I'm seeing the result from the other end.
So do you share all of that now?
I sometimes share. I was sharing a lot of it, actually. I started doing a lot of videos last year, and I really got bogged down by all this stuff that's happening in the world. I really had to go deep with my kids too. The emotional trauma and mental health, like, they needed so much at this age when everything got shut down. It's like my daughter was going to get her license, and then she was like, well, what's the point? I can't go anywhere. Right. And then she's like thinking of, I don't know, maybe dating or just getting a job or being out in the world, and everything shifted. So I feel like I pulled back on some of my stuff I should have probably been sharing, because everyone needs it, and kind of went within our little family.
Yeah.
And now I'm starting to come back out again and have all these ideas for sharing, what we've been through. And I did a few videos and stuff, and I don't know, I turned inward. Like, I just couldn't put myself out there, and so much fighting and polarity and division. And
I know.
I kind of got nervous to speak up, actually. I was like, well, I'll just stay safely in my bubble over here.
And that's okay too, right? I mean, whatever your timing is and whatever feels right, and when it feels right, it's all good, because it's so individual. I share exactly what you're saying. There were moments, mine may have been smaller, but there were moments where I didn't record anything. I didn't do a video for 2 weeks, which I know it's 2 weeks, but I just wasn't in the space. And I'm very much like that. I very much do things intuitively, where there's a day where I feel completely inspired and there's a message coming through and it needs to come, and I step out of the way and just do it. And there are times where I'm integrating and processing and it's not there to give it. And I don't want to be fake and say a message where, of course, I can share that I'm conflicted or I'm hurting, or, I can share all of that. But there's sometimes that I need that inward space where there's just no point in sharing that if I'm not in a place to share.
I love that. I mean, to come from a space of being aligned, I think being, empathic, and also, do you resonate with being clairsentient? Like, I'm very clairsentient. And so it's like, yeah, so I'm the same way. Like, someone could tell me and I'd be like, no, I'm not feeling it. And so if my energy, I know that my energy is going to come through. So my energy matters so much, what I'm bringing to the space. But I don't know. I mean, to be honest with you, since we last spoke also, I was going to tell you on here, I actually went through a really hard time, and my dad passed away. And it put me into what I would call the dark night of the soul. Like, it wasn't just grief about him. It was grieving my family, like my origin family, and everything I've ever been through with them. And it was like, it just, oh my God, it like buried me. It just like, for like a couple of years, actually. It was like, my kids were telling me, what did Gabby tell me? She said, she was kind of like, you lost your spark, like you lost your light. Like, everywhere I go, people talk to me, tell me stuff at Trader Joe's. They tell me their deepest stuff, like everywhere. And it's funny, for like a couple of years, I wasn't talking to anyone when I went out, and my kids were like, and so when people started to come up to me again, they're like, oh, mommy's light is coming back. It's shining again. It's like, oh, it was traumatic.
Yeah.
But necessary to kind of go through this like transmutation of myself. And I feel like I'm still kind of like coming back into myself, and then the whole world shut down. And I always felt like I knew what I could tell the girls, like, you're a co-creator and blah, blah, blah. And like all this stuff about their life. And then when this happened, they were like, what's happening? And I'm like, for us, it's going to sound really weird, but a huge trauma happened when they closed Disneyland, because we live so close to it. And it's kind of a big part of our family. We would go to Disneyland a lot, and it's where we would connect and unplug and be together, and no one's working, no one's on their devices. It was so much deeper than it would seem. And they got really scared, because they're like, okay, Disney shut down. The world is ending. It's like over.
Yeah.
So,
like,
yeah.
Those stationary loops, we have those in Portland. For some reason, there are these horse loops where they used to, and you see them on the sidewalks, there are these metal rings where they used to tether the horses to.
Oh.
When I think of that, it's like these old tethering points that have been taken away, removed, or are totally changing. And it's hard to know where you are in space.
Yeah.
When these things have come up. And so it's finding these new tether points. And I totally get it. It's disorienting.
Yeah. And for us, I think we always prided ourselves within our family that we kind of unplugged from the matrix and lived among the world, but not really in the world, So our kids have always been unschooled.
Right.
And
I love that. We're not really a part of the world except for Disneyland, but that's our permission slip to be human. We're going to go to Disney.
No, totally. Oh my God, that's so funny. Yes, totally. So, but there were so many ways that we would not, I don't want to say like participate, but we just weren't a part of the like world's drama. And then it sort of came over us like a tsunami. We like went to the grocery store, and people are nervous about toilet paper, and like it became so real. And I was really nervous I wasn't going to be able to get food for us, because we're all plant-based and vegan, and we have been for like 11 years. And I thought, I'm not going to have access to not only food, but the food that everyone eats, and with their allergies that would support them. And like I felt like I was usually the one who was like out in the world kind of fighting for all of us, getting everything done. And I felt like I wasn't going to be capable of that. I mean, I don't know, when did we ever experience this? Not that the world hasn't gone through things before,
Right.
but in
Right.
our lifetime.
We haven't.
Right. So I was like, yeah, so I felt like I had to draw on every coping skill that I ever learned. And I had done Reiki, but last year I felt like to survive, I became a Reiki master. Like I did the final level, and
Mhm.
I knew I needed to kind of up my game, for myself, for my family. If I took on clients, because I was like, okay, we haven't done this before. Like, I'm not even sure what to tell people.
Yeah.
So I'm going to help you figure out how to feel, but nobody knows what really to do.
Right. It's a birthing process, and we haven't really gone through this, and it's funny because of what gets stirred up and all of the dark and light and how that interacts and how one brings up the other. And I imagine, right, I can't prove this, but I imagine that the whole like 3D to 5D sort of consciousness shift, that all of this, it's part of it, otherwise it wouldn't be. So what in this, like, does this make the washing machine effect that brings up everything that needs to be seen, all the things that are hiding, all the things that, corruption and nefarious, everything, like all of it, so that people can wake up and see this is kind of a matrix, and we have to step out of the matrix, but we first have to realize we're in the matrix.
Yes. Yes, I know. And it has to shine a light on all of these things, because it's even Disney, like all these places, it's in the dark. And so, yeah, I totally agree with you. And I keep telling my girls, I'm like, I know we're here. Like my daughter's like, why did I even come down here? And she always says they pressed the wrong button and spilled coffee when she like chose this life. Like she always makes these jokes. It's really funny, but because they're very metaphysical, and they've always been like that. But I feel like we're placed in the right time, and people like you and I are needed.
Yeah, and you can remind them too, is that's exactly why you're here, because you're that powerful that you chose to be here at this time. I'm sure you say this, but at just a reminder, at this time,
Totally.
to bring this on, because even them just existing, right? They don't have to do any videos. They don't have to heal anyone. Just that energy, that who they are existing on the planet, adds to the drop in the pool. Like if there's a scale of consciousness and unconsciousness, they're adding to that scale of consciousness. So even just who they are and what they bring is healing without having to do anything. That's sort of the fun icing on the cake part, is whatever they'll do, if they can infuse that idea and that level of consciousness in what they do, knowing what's behind it, like putting an energy behind, even if they're growing things, or even if they're having conversations, or if they're whatever profession they choose to be in, or not, like all of that all goes out and adds to that huge bucket of energy.
I know, you're right. We're holding the fort down, so to speak, for everyone by just existing. And but what's interesting is that my oldest daughter, she's always been fascinated. And I told you this when I sent you those pictures of your dad. Like she's obsessed with Lucille Ball. So Lucille Ball and actually Walt Disney, like as a person, and kind of what he did and what he accomplished and everything. And I mean, she doesn't know him personally, but as she's still, her dream is to create sort of like a mindful Hollywood. Like she wants to produce, she wants to direct, she wants to, and all these things have come out more and more publicly now about, I'm sure because you know way more than me about this industry. But I'm sort of like thinking like, do I really want her in this space? And this doesn't sound like a place for her. I mean, she's determined that she's here to up level, like shift things, and that she's gonna
can't stop it.
I'm thinking that's the craziest place I would have never expected her to be interested and headed towards. But she's not doing it because she's not doing anything about it right now. She's just in like observation, manifestation, visualization mode. She's not interested in doing it like today at 17.
Yeah. That's great.
Yeah. I don't know.
Great. Whether she does it, or even if she doesn't do it, just the fact of she has an awareness, an idea of what she wants to do or what she wants to add. Yeah, I think it's great.
She's like, can you imagine if she doesn't even know what's possible, but she says like, can you imagine if we shifted? I mean, she watches movies and they're all the same, they're all like programming everybody, especially teens, I would say teens and kids, I mean, no, it's everyone, but for her perspective, it's like, she's like, the kids, she notices all these things. She's like, mommy, they never like their parents. They never,
right. You know what I mean? I know.
She's like, and they just keep putting that into everyone and like showing these messages. She's like, wouldn't it be so great if we could share different messages with people with great entertaining stories and amazing cinematography, but, upgrade the relationships and how people speak and,
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. I'm all for it. Go on, do it.
Yeah. She wants me to go first. She's like, you build Prana Boost, mommy, you keep going and then we'll see what I can accomplish. And, who knows? So
keep going.
You
keep doing it.
I know. Okay.